For more on all those matchups, we welcome in Big Ten Network lacrosse analyst Mark Dixon. All right, Mark, let's start with that marquee quarterfinal matchup between Maryland and Virginia, the rematch of the 2021 title game. How does this Cavs team match up with this Terps team?
Well, we got an indication back in March and when Maryland beat Virginia 23-12, but I think that was a Virginia team that was a little banged up. They didn't do particularly well at the face-off, and they had a freshman goalie in Matt Nunes that I think that the Terps got to early. But there's not a whole lot to suggest that Virginia is better than Maryland at this point, especially after a double-digit dusting that the Terps laid on them. I think Virginia is healthier right now, but I think Maryland is just more athletic. I think that they're really focused. They're so talented. We saw them get off to a slow start last weekend against Vermont and really just put the pedal to the metal in the second quarter to distance themselves from the Catamounts. So I think this is a very interesting game. Can Virginia beat Maryland? Certainly. And they've had the Terrapins number the last couple of times they've met in the postseason, including that national championship game back in 2021. But this is a different type of cat that you're dealing with in the Maryland Terrapins. They are loaded on the offensive end. They're so unpredictable. They're so balanced. The defense is solid. They're nasty. They have a good goaltender in Logan McNaney. And maybe the difference maker this year will be Luke Weirman. If you think about last year, national championship game, final play of regulation, Weirman comes down, takes the shot, saved by Virginia goaltender Alex Rode. I think that image is seared in the mind of Weirman. And I think that is what has driven him. That is what has helped him elevate his game so much in 2022. I expect him to be fantastic this weekend against Virginia, and I do expect Maryland to win this game.
Anthony DeMeo has also been terrific as of late. A couple of hat tricks after not having one during the regular season. You had all that together, and of course, you have Logan Wisnauskas, widely considered the best player in college lacrosse, scored his 50th goal of the season in that win over Vermont that you mentioned. Mark, this is a hard question. I know it's something of a loaded question, but where do you think Logan will ultimately rank among the all-time greats at a school that has had so many in men's lacrosse?
If Maryland can win the next three games, that's the quarterfinal, the national semifinal, and the national championship, they will go down as the greatest team in the history of the University of Maryland lacrosse. I think that is well within reason when you consider the performance that the Terrapins have had in 2022. And the alpha male on that team is Logan Wisnauskas. So this is a bold statement potentially, but he could go down as the best in the history of Maryland lacrosse. When you look at the lineage of Maryland Terrapins, Frank Urso, a midfielder back in the 70s, a four-time first-team All-American. Then you look at the most recent vintage, Matt Rambo, Jared Bernhardt, both Tewaaraton winners, both national champions. That's what all three of these guys have in common. They won national championships at the University of Maryland. So if Wisnauskas can cap off a perfect season for the Terrapins, being their best player, I think then he takes home the Tewaaraton as well. When you have all those things in line, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to say that Logan Wisnauskas may go down as the best offensive player, maybe the best player ever in the history of University of Maryland lacrosse, which is a high achievement to get to. But, again, it is – there's so many terrific players that have played in the University of Maryland, especially in the last couple of years. But if Wisnauskas can pull it off, he may go down as the best ever.
That would be an unbelievable statement. That game Sunday afternoon, Virginia and Maryland. Now, Rutgers is also in the quarterfinals after a really impressive 19-9 win over Harvard. And I know that there were a lot of questions as to whether Harvard should have even been in this field or not. Take that and throw it in the trash, because the storyline was Ross Scott, who had 8 goals in that game for the Scarlet Knights. How do you best describe Scott's performance?
Electric. It was unbelievable. And I think the rest of the country, if they weren't paying attention to Rutgers and Ross Scott, found out what we've known all along, that Ross Scott is one of the best players at attack in any position in college lacrosse. He's so fast. He's so quick. That was a competitive game. 7-4 at halftime, and the second half became the Ross Scott show. I believe he had 7 of those 8 goals in the second half of action. Everything was on display for him. His quickness, his shooting ability, his ability to turn the corner. and get great shots off. In a time where Rutgers is so experienced, 27 seniors. You talk about the grad transfers and Bartolo and Cameron and Jacoby. It's Ross Scott that has really paid his dues and has elevated his game to a whole nother stratosphere in 2022. He's a matchup problem for that University of Pennsylvania defense that they'll be facing this coming weekend. And again, the experience that this Rutgers team possesses, it's really crazy to think that, Ross Scott, one of the smaller players on the team, is really the leader of this unit and could propel them potentially to their first ever championship weekend appearance.
Mark, I do want to touch on Ohio State's season that comes to a close with a loss to Cornell. What should we make of the Buckeyes' year and their future?
I think that the Buckeyes had a wonderful 2022. When you consider they had no preseason first-team All-American, no preseason All-Americans, period. Were picked to finish fifth in the conference in the preseason poll. And then they get to the NCAA first round, and they just ran into a tough matchup against Cornell. And unfortunately for the Buckeyes, the second meeting, which was the NCAA tournament, went much like the first meeting, where in the regular season, where Ohio State got out to a 3-4 goal lead, and then the wheels just kind of fell off the cart. They ran out of steam. But when you talk about Jack Myers, I think he's one of the best players in the country. I thought he could have been a Tewaaraton finalist. I think he's in contention for at least a second-team All-American nod. Jackson Reed is another incredible player that led this Buckeye team. So they could come back for fifth years in Columbus next year, as well as Justin Anasio, their face-off man. So the future could look bright in terms of returning some really experienced, talented players. But then you look at the younger guys, Bobby Van Buren, the freshman, defenseman, who was Big Ten Freshman of the Year. You got some other young guys that came along this year, Ari Allen, particular among them in the midfield, an incredible athlete with great lacrosse acumen. So I think when you take into consideration the accomplishments of this Buckeye team, which wasn't expected to do a whole lot in this season, getting to the NCAA tournament, they just got a bad matchup in that first round. And you look to the future, I think things are incredibly bright for the Buckeyes.
All right, Mark, on the women's side, Maryland, the 2 seed, faces Florida in the quarterfinals Thursday. How big a favorite are the Terps in this one?
Wow. I'm not an odds maker, Rick. I'm not much of a gambler. I certainly wish I would have bet on the Kentucky Derby a couple of weeks ago. We might not be talking right about now, if you know what I'm saying. But I think Maryland goes in there probably maybe a 4.5 goal favorite against the Florida Gators. I mean, look, this is a Maryland team that last year was very disappointed in their performance, and they've really reloaded and refocused in 22. They've been so impressive all season long. They get Florida at home. That is a Florida Gator team that broke Maryland's, it was a 7 or 8 year win streak in College Park. Don't think that the Terps haven't forgotten about that. And I think Maryland wins this one against Florida going away.
All right, and lastly, also on Thursday, the 4-5 matchup is intriguing. It's Northwestern and Syracuse. This is the matchup that we saw last year in the national semifinals when Syracuse ended Northwestern's run. What does this one look like to you?
It's going to be tough for the Wildcats. I mean, obviously an incredibly talented team they've had a great year, but I think that they were really set back in the preseason when they lost Izzy Skane, their best offensive player. And I think that potentially in this matchup, that absence could rear its ugly head. Freshman of the year in Sammy White. You've got Lauren Gilbert is terrific. Doucette's a good goaltender, but Syracuse, they're a very tough team. New coach in Kayla Trainer, but I do think that this will be an uphill battle for Northwestern. With that being said, though, don't count the Wildcats out. I mean, you've got their head coach, Kelly Amonte Hiller. She's won 7 national championships. She knows what it takes to get to that championship weekend. But this is the toughest round, both the men's and the women's. When you think about that quarterfinal round, it is the toughest dragon to slay to get to that Final Four. But I think Northwestern is facing an uphill battle. But, hey, they've done it before many, many times, and don't discount that experience.
Yep, the Northwestern and Maryland women set for Thursday quarterfinals. Rutgers on Saturday, Maryland on Sunday on the men's side in the quarterfinals. And now you know what to watch for, thanks to Mark Dixon. Mark, we appreciate the time.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it.
And our big interview takes us to Columbus, where the coach of that conference championship team Kate Sweeney joins us. Kate, first and foremost, thanks for the time. Congratulations. As I told you just a moment ago, I think I can still see the glow on your face.
Thanks so much, and thanks for having me today.
All right, so take me through your emotions. I'm going to actually start and work backwards through the final race because it's extremely tight. It's the first varsity 8 with you and Michigan in the hunt. And as I understand, it comes down to 0.6 of a second and the kind of photo finish that you want in a race like that. How were you dealing with all that drama?
Honestly, fairly well. We got up to a bit of a lead to start the race, and then slowly but surely, and as we expected, Michigan was able to work back in to that lead that we did have. They're an incredible crew, and I was sitting on the picnic table. I was watching it with my staff, and I had this confidence that we were going to be able to squeak it out, and we were able to do it. So I'd like to say that it was this big dramatic thing, but my heart was certainly beating quite quickly. But honestly, we were pretty calm in the moment because we knew that regardless, that was a very good race for our crew against a very good team.
How much of that calm, how much of that confidence was instilled in you based on what you had seen from that crew, and not just in race situations? I mean, you guys do so much work that those on the outside never see that lead up to what we saw over the weekend.
Honestly, it's been a bit of a challenging year in terms of finding the correct lineups in our different boats. So the confidence I had was in the athletic maturity of the group. We've seen some really big leaders step up and take on roles and speak with confidence and act with confidence. So I can't say that I necessarily was seeing this race coming and this result coming, but I will tell you that the folks that we had in that crew, I had a lot of trust in based on things I've seen over the course of the last 9 months. That crew hadn't raced in that lineup yet. So that was the first lineup, the first time that they went out and raced in that lineup. But what we've been seeing at practice and what we've seen from those 9 individuals over the course of the year gave me a sense of confidence and calm.
And obviously, it's not just that one race. It's set up by other races. It's set up by other wins, including a really impressive showing in the first varsity 4. You jump out to a really quick lead. You have basically a boat-length lead by the time you're at 1,000 meters. How much did that race mean in terms of setting things up for what we saw at the end?
That crew came out and raced an incredible race. They raced with confidence. They performed it kind of exactly as we expected them to based on what we had been seeing on our home course. We weren't sure what to expect from the other crews. We know that Michigan has a very good 4 and some of the other boats in the conference as well. They rode long, they rode with confidence, and it was really cool to see what they had been working on in practice come to fruition on Sunday.
Okay, so in between that win in the first varsity 4 and your first varsity 8 win, Michigan made it a little tighter in that second varsity 8. So after that result was posted and you kind of knew where you guys stood, what was the response and the attitude before the next boat went in the water?
Luckily, there's not a lot of time, right? We send our crews off and they're gone. And often they don't see or have any idea how the crew that raced right in front of them finished. So our varsity 8 had no idea that our 2V had just finished second in a bow ball to bow ball finish. And we have no control over what happens as coaches because we're just on land and we can't communicate with them. So we were like, well, we hope we prepared them to race the best race we possibly can. And we sat with it with a lot of nerves.
So this is the program's 10th overall Big Ten Conference title, but your first after the team finished second in your first conference regatta last season. So what does it feel like? What did it feel like to wake up on Monday morning after you had the benefit of sleep and a couple hours to look back and think about your accomplishments to realize that you were a conference championship head coach?
Felt a lot of gratitude for the student athletes on our team and the trust that they've put into me and to the rest of the staff. A lot of gratitude to my coaching staff and how they've really bought into what we've been trying to do and the support staff that we have around us. It's truly a team effort to win a conference championship. And so I was filled with a huge sense of gratitude, and I was a little tired.
That's honest and understandable. Kate, it takes a full crew, it takes a full team, but if you had to pick out some of the veterans, some of the leaders and linchpins of this championship, who kind of motivates the rest of this team to get where they needed to be?
It's a great question. We have a lot of really good leaders. There's 3 fifth years on our team that I want to give a shout out to that really stepped up in particular this year. Rachel DeWitt, who's an All-American last year. She was in 5 seed of our varsity 8. She's a 5th year senior. She's heading off. Lexi Nothdurft in 6 seed of our varsity 8. She was gone for 2021 at home due to COVID. She was in Australia, and we had her back this year, and she's made a big impact. And Divya Bachu, who is the coxswain of the 2nd varsity 8. All 3 of them have done a great job being, experienced leaders, having won a conference title in their, 5 years and being able to help us get back there.
All right, let's finish up our chat with the way we started the segment, and that is announcing the NCAA selections. You have 3 boats all ranked as top 10 seeds. The 4s are a 4 seed, the first 8's a 6 seed, the second 8 is a 10 seed. How excited is this team to continue this run with 3 boats, given legitimate championships to win?
Yeah, we're excited. We got up Monday morning. We had a long practice. They were tired, but they got it done. We've been working really hard to find a little bit more speed, and we know we're about to walk into our regatta with an incredible amount of competition. So, again, we're walking in humbly, we're walking in grateful, and we're walking in excited to represent the Big Ten and to represent Ohio State.
So let me follow up on that. A long practice on Monday, no championship break, huh?
No, I know. I tried to let them sleep in a little bit, but one of our seniors had work to get to at 9:30, so we had to get up bright and early like we always do.
I was going to say, what is sleeping in for rowing teams? I mean, you guys are usually out there at the crack of dawn.
Yeah, we practice at 6:45, so I was trying to let them sleep until 8, but that was a no-go, unfortunately. So there we were at 6:30 in the morning on Monday, ready to go.
Man, it's a good thing they're young and athletes. Not enough coffee in the world for this guy. Kate Sweeney. Kate, we appreciate the time. Congrats on the conference title. We will be following you and the teams throughout the NCAAs. We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
And let's start our next interview with the player who gets it started for Northwestern, leadoff hitter, center fielder Skyler Shellmyer. Skyler, we just saw the reaction of you and the team finding out that you were the number 9 overall seed and that you would host the regional in Evanston. Take me back to that moment and what it was like for you personally to see your name come up, 2nd highest overall seed Northwestern has ever received heading into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think we were just really excited. Like, we had high hopes that we were going to host a regional, and we just didn't know if we would get the chance to host a super regional as well. But we were the number 9 seed. It was super exciting. I'm really excited for this weekend and all the opportunities ahead.
Yeah, do you kind of put that slight bit of disappointment aside because as a top 8 seed, if you win your regional, you're guaranteed to host the Super. Do you feel like maybe if you had just won one more game in the tournament, you would have had the 8, or do you just completely forget about that at this point?
Yeah, we can't really look at the past right now. We really got to look forward, and anything can happen in the postseason. And, we're going to win this weekend, and maybe our opponent will lose for the next weekend, and we'll get a host again. So you never know what's going to happen.
I love that attitude. One of the teams that you will play as we look ahead to this regional is a team that you actually played during the regular season, or a team that you may have a chance to play in Notre Dame. I look back, that was a 3-2 loss. Of course, your ace, Daniel Williams, didn't pitch in that game. If you end up playing Notre Dame at one point, can you tell us what you recall about that matchup and the Irish specifically?
I thought we had a lack of energy in that game, and I really think that's where we excel normally. So I think this weekend we're going to have all the energy, we're going to have all the momentum. I have a lot of faith in us and what we're going to accomplish this weekend, and it doesn't matter who's on the mound or what's going to happen. Like, we're going to win this game.
And obviously, you don't start with Notre Dame anyway. You start with Oakland on Friday. What do you expect the message, the pregame speech, the motivation from Coach Kate Drohan to be heading into this weekend?
I think it's just going to be out there, or tell us to go out there and have fun and really play hard every single step. We need to take really big, hard steps and just go get it. Go get what we want.
Yeah, it's interesting that you use the word fun because a Northwestern alum, former catcher Sammy Nettling, works with us here in studio, and she used that same word to describe Kate Drohan, and she talked about the importance that Kate puts on having fun and how key that is to leading to success. Would you echo that, and why does that ring true?
I would 100% echo that. I think Coach Drohan really understands that we need to have fun. to be able to excel at our best, and I really appreciate that about her. And when we do that, we play our best game, and I think that's what we just need to remind ourselves and just keep continuing doing.
You had such an outstanding regular season, and this is in a league that's obviously stacked. 7 teams going to the NCAA tournament. You had to fight off Nebraska, who at one point won 18 consecutive games, both in and out of the league. So what ultimately, Skyler, in your opinion, led to you guys being able to clinch the regular season title?
I think what led us to clinching that title is all the hard-fought games early on in the season. Our extra innings win against Michigan, our comeback win against Michigan in that series we had initially, our extra innings game against Indiana, all those hard-fought games that we battled out, I think that's what put us in the position we were in.
Listen, you helped put the rest of this lineup in a good position. I'm intrigued as the leadoff hitter how you approach each at-bat, and maybe more specifically, the first at-bat of every game, because you are generally going to be the first Northwestern hitter that gets a good look at the opposing pitcher inside the circle each night.
Yeah, I have like one of 2 goals. Either A, get on base any way possible. It doesn't matter if it's a dink hit, a hard hit, ground ball, whatever it takes. Or I just want to see a lot of pitches. So if I don't get on base, I want to see as many pitches as I possibly can to prepare my other teammates.
So as I was doing some research for this interview, I love to look at the school bios that sometimes take us back to the players' high school days. And I am told that coming out of high school, when you first got to college, your time from home plate to first base was 2.57 seconds. Now, that seems ridiculously fast to me. How much of that speed comes from the fact that you also ran track in high school?
I really think it helped a lot. Like, I'm so happy I ran track in high school. I think the mechanics are a little different, but overall, I'm really thankful for running track in high school. I was pretty decent, honestly. But yeah, speed kills.
Yeah, well, and as I have to, share a little bit of a secret before we started the interview, you told me that maybe it's a 10th slower now, maybe 2.7 as opposed to 2.6. You know, that extra 10th, that could be a big difference, especially as hard as some of these infielders throw.
Yeah, it can definitely be a difference, but I'd say any ball hit to the infield, it's going to be a really close play no matter where it's at. So as long as that pressure's on the defense, it's in my court, the ball's in my court.
Yeah, how much of a skill is that? Because those that are kind of uneducated or unaware of kind of the intricacies of softball, watching that timing as you try to get the bat on the ball, still try to get a little bit of a head start toward first, but make sure that you are still inside the box when you make contact. As you first start to learn that, how difficult is it to kind of master that really important skill?
I think it can be difficult at first, but like once you get your timing down, I don't think it's not that big of a challenge. I think the biggest challenge is staying in the box. But I think with the rule change this year, it's been a lot better with it's just a strike now instead of a complete out. So really thankful for that rule change, and yeah.
Once the ball goes on the ground, if you hit a grounder, how quickly do you know based on your jump out of the box and how quickly the ball is rolling at that point? At what point down the line do you usually know whether you're beating it out or not?
I would say when about 3/4 of the way there, I pretty much know whether I'm going to be safe or not, or it's going to be a really close play that I hope goes my way. And I also know if I get like a couple bounces, especially to the left side, that I'll probably be safe.
All right, so we're talking all about the offensive side, but obviously defense, a huge key for you out in center. And that's interesting because you transitioned from being an outstanding high schooler where you were one of the top-ranked prospects as an infielder. By the way, she hit .519 career in high school for those keeping track. What was the transition like for you to make it from being a high school infielder to being a college outfielder?
Yeah, honestly, in high school, I would consider myself a utility player. Early on in my high school career, I played outfield quite a bit, and then later on, I went solely to shortstop. But I played a lot of outfield in high school. In a lot of club games, I would play outfield as well. So I was very accustomed to the outfield. It was not a hard transition at all. And honestly, I really like it. I can just go run around and catch the ball.
What is it like to watch from your viewpoint? You're standing directly behind the battery that is typically Danielle Williams and Jordan Rudd, to watch Danielle dealing when she is on her game, which honestly is pretty much all the time?
Yeah, no, I love playing behind Danielle. Danielle, it's really amazing. I love that I can see the strike zone and that I can kind of fight for her when she's not getting those calls, and I just love it. I love the connection she has with me, and it's super fun.
How did she react, and how did the team rally around her after that home run that she gave up in the 7th in the semifinals to Michigan?
You know, it was definitely a tough loss for us, but we just came together and said, so what? It doesn't matter. Like, we just got to continue on and try our best when we get to hit. Didn't go our way, but it's all right. Got a lot ahead of us.
Yep, a lot ahead of you, and it begins this Friday in Evanston. Skyler Shellmyer and the number 9 overall seed Northwestern Wildcats open against Oakland. Home regional this weekend against Evanston. Skyler, we truly appreciate the time. Best of luck this weekend. We look forward to following you not just this weekend, but in the Super Regionals and beyond.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Come out and support if you can.
Andy Katz is alongside. That must mean some basketball is happening nearby. And in fact, just down the road here in Chicago, the NBA Combine, officially the 18th through the 20th of May. And as you were telling me, measurements today on the 18th, scrimmages the next couple of days. You've been over there. What's the feel? What's happening right now at the Combine?
Well, first of all, what's amazing is it's the first time that everyone's back since 2019. And I don't know what they told the agents, but this is the first time that I can remember, I've been doing this a long time, where every player has shown up. Now, not every player plays, but there's been many years where the top players don't even show up in Chicago to do the medical testing, the measurements, but they're all here, which is obviously good news for the NBA draft.
Yeah, obviously, some of those players the last couple of years didn't have that opportunity because
Yes.
of COVID and all the changes, kind of like us with traveling now. Everybody's going somewhere
Yes.
this summer, right? So among the Big Ten players that are going to be there this week, where do the most intriguing storylines lie?
Well, first of all, I think there's a chance that 4 Big Ten players can be in the lottery, which is significant. No question about it, because I think Jaden Ivey, who I have compared to, and I think you would agree with me on this, I think could be the next John Morant. You know, his athleticism, you agree with me on that?
Got to shoot a little bit better
Yes.
to be John Morant.
Yes, but the athleticism, the electricity he provides, and the fact that he can defend, I think he's got potential to do that. And I think Jaden Ivey could go as high as 4, maybe even higher.
Seen that in some mock drafts.
Yeah, so he could be there. And then after that, I think there's a good chance that you could get Keegan Murray and Johnny Davis, you know, somewhere in the middle, whether it's 5 to 10, 11, 12, where Keegan Murray, I think he's got a chance to maybe be even Rookie of the Year. Like,
Yeah, I think he's an NBA-ready player.
I think last year or this past season we saw Scotty Barnes, who came in at 4 from Florida State, and suddenly he was the Rookie of the Year from Toronto. I think we could see the same thing with Keegan Murray, no question. And then the 4th player is a little bit of a surprise here, because we never would have said this a couple months ago, but I think Malachi Branham is going to be a lottery pick from Ohio State.
Wow.
Yes. I talked to him yesterday, and first of all, what a wonderful young man, so excited, and really kind of taking this all in, that it's all happened so fast. Because remember, at the beginning of the season, he to have this happen. Some injuries.
We had a slow start to the year.
Yes, and injuries. Remember, E.J. Liddell was hurt. And he's sort of a big guard, but at the same time, minutes were shifting around. Justice Suing never even played. So he suddenly became more confident. He told me that Chris Holtman, you see there with the extension, gave him incredible confidence to take more shots. And as the season went along, he became a focal point. And there was no question that he looked like a lottery pick. I think he will be a lottery pick. And then there's a potential for a 5th, and that could be Max Christie.
In the lottery or in the first round?
I think there's a chance that he could go as high as 14 to Cleveland, which would be the last lottery selection. My gut is he's probably 15 to 20-something, but you know, his stock is rising. He did not have a consistent year as a shooter.
So explain that to me. Why is his stock rising? And I'm not trying to say that he should be back in East Lansing or that he's making the wrong decision. Everybody makes decisions for different reasons. But as Branham went upward and the trajectory was going in the right direction, I'm not sure that Christie's trajectory at any point during his freshman year exceeded where he was before he started his freshman year. I think that's a fair statement. So I was surprised to hear that he's keeping his name in the draft.
The key thing for Christie is in these workouts, and a lot of these are one-on-nones, you got to make shots. And as you get deeper into the first round, teams are looking for shot makers a lot of times, or bigs, backup bigs. And if Max Christie in workouts can prove he can make perimeter shots where he was inconsistent this season, then he has a legitimate shot. There's also a little bit where, because he was not, he didn't drop off the face of the earth here. He just was a little inconsistent. But he was on the radar for these NBA personnel prior to this season. And he's a high-character young man. No question about it. He interviews exceptionally well, not just with us, but with teams and coaches, respectful. And I think, and he's got people, and he's telling me yesterday, Magic Johnson's in his camp and has been very supportive. Draymond Green, all those Michigan State alums, I think that helps.
Oh, no question.
In terms of convincing NBA personnel.
All right, so tell me a little bit about Trayce Jackson-Davis. You had a chance to chat with him
No,
yesterday?
actually, he was not there.
Okay.
He was supposed to be there. There's talk that he may show up the next couple of days. I still have a gut that he's going to go back to Indiana because he is nowhere in the first round right now. So he would be maybe a second-round pick. And could he maybe be there next year? Sure. He might still not be. But he at least gives him one more chance to move up into the first round. Obviously, if he comes back, I think Indiana is easily 1 or 2 in the preseason projections for the Big Ten. And also, what's been really interesting on social media is he's been very active responding to different things. There was a tweet a week or so ago where Indiana and Arizona are going to play, and he responded to Dalen Terry, who's also on the fence, about, hey, this looks cool, or something to that effect about, this game that could happen. And Xavier Johnson from Indiana, his teammate, responded to a comment that I made on social media that he should come back. And Xavier Johnson retweeted that with his own comment, like, hey, yeah. So they're talking through Twitter.
That never happens in
yeah.
today's day and age.
But I think there's still a strong chance that he comes back.
All right, let's talk teams. Which team in the Big Ten will be most impacted by the decisions that are made this week as we look ahead to next year? And I know there's not a lot of guys left out there who haven't decided.
Well, there's one team we haven't mentioned. That's Michigan. Yep. Michigan, so if it's not Indiana, to me, it's Michigan as the preseason favorite if Moussa Diabate and Caleb Houston. And I can tell you that the Michigan staff was kind of shocked that Houston turned down an invite to the Combine. There's a little chatter out there, is there a promise, which would seem really weird because he did not have a great year. So we don't know what Caleb Houston's doing right now. But Diabate, I think, is going to be very intriguing because he's the kind of player that I think will be a workout wonder. And teams will be like, let's take that guy late first. So I actually am more inclined to think he may stay in because I think people will be enamored because he's a phenomenal athlete.
And if you go back and watch the tape of his best games, yes, then he is a first-round pick for sure. If you go back and watch the tape of his worst games, he doesn't come off the board at all.
Right.
So it's intriguing. All right, we've got about 40 seconds left. Who is the #1 overall pick and why?
Well, it could be any one of 4, Chet Holmgren, Paolo Banchero, Jabari Smith, or Jaden Ivey. I think because Orlando got the #1 pick, they may lean Jabari Smith Jr. because he fits in better. But it is an intriguing year where any one of the 4 teams that got the top 4, I think will be happy with whoever they select.
And so you think you would put your money on Jaden Ivey first from the Big Ten with Keegan Murray very close behind?
Yes.